Let me tell you something that most people learn too late in life. Not everyone who smiles at you supports you, and not everyone who dislikes you can explain why. There are people who will oppose you without a single logical reason. No history of harm, no real conflict, no direct offense. You didn't take anything from them. You didn't disrespect them, you didn't cross them, and yet somehow your existence alone becomes uncomfortable for them. Now the question is not whether this happens. The question is, why does it happen, and what do you do when it does? Because once you understand this, you stop being emotionally manipulated by confusion. You stop trying to fix relationships that were never broken in the first place. And you stop shrinking yourself just to make insecure people feel comfortable. Let's get something clear from the beginning. Some people don't hate you because of what you did. They hate you because of what you represent. You represent possibility. You represent discipline. You represent courage they don't have the strength to build. You represent consistency they abandoned. You represent a standard they refuse to meet. And sometimes your very presence reminds them of their own unfulfilled potential. And that reminder is painful. So instead of dealing with that pain internally, they externalize it. They project it onto you. Now let's talk about the behaviors of people who hate you for no reason, because they always reveal themselves. Always. The first behavior is unexplained criticism. These are the people who can't point to anything specific, but somehow always have something negative to say about you. Your tone is wrong. Your energy is off. Your personality is too much or not enough. Notice the contradiction. When criticism is not based on facts, it is based on feelings. And when feelings are not processed properly, they become projections. So what they are really saying is not about you at all. It is about their internal discomfort in your presence. They don't study your actions. They interpret your existence. And that is dangerous, because you cannot fix what was never logical to begin with. The second behavior is selective blindness to your strengths. People who dislike you for no reason will never acknowledge your growth. They will minimize your progress. They will ignore your discipline. They will overlook your achievements. Even when your results are undeniable, they will find a way to say it's luck, or it's timing, or it's connections. Why? Because acknowledging your growth would require them to confront their own stagnation. And most people are not willing to do that. So instead of celebrating you, they reduce you. The third behavior is inconsistent energy. One day they are warm. The next day they are cold. One moment they are supportive. The next moment they are distant or passive-aggressive. This inconsistency is not random. It is emotional instability triggered by your presence, because every time they see you progressing, something inside them shifts. And instead of regulating that emotion, they express it through behavior changes. They are not reacting to you. They are reacting to themselves in your reflection. The fourth behavior is silent competition. They will never openly say they are competing with you, but everything they do reveals it. They monitor your progress quietly. They compare themselves privately. They measure their life against yours without telling you, and competition without communication turns into resentment, because they are trying to win a race you didn't even enter with them. You are building your life, they are tracking your life, and that imbalance creates tension they don't understand. The fifth behavior is subtle discouragement disguised as advice. They will tell you things like, be realistic, don't aim too high, slow down, you're doing too much, or that's not for people like us. Listen carefully. This is not guidance. This is limitation wrapped in language that sounds caring. And the reason it sounds caring is because they don't want to appear like enemies. But the message is clear: shrink yourself so I feel comfortable around you. And that is not advice. That is insecurity speaking in a polite tone. The sixth behavior is discomfort with your confidence. When you walk into a room with clarity, some people become unsettled. Not because you are loud, but because you are certain. Certainty exposes confusion. When you know who you are, it makes people who don't know who they are feel exposed. So they label your confidence as arrogance. They call your clarity attitude. They call your boundaries ego. But in reality, what they are seeing is a mirror they don't want to look into. The seventh behavior is delayed hostility. At first they are neutral, sometimes even friendly. But over time, as your growth becomes consistent, something changes. They start pulling away. They start speaking less. They start acting different. This delay is important because the hatred was not immediate. It developed as your progress became undeniable. In other words, they were fine with you when you were small, but they became uncomfortable when you started expanding. The eighth behavior is gossip amplification. They rarely confront you directly. Instead, they speak around you. They discuss you in rooms you are not in. They distort context. They exaggerate details. They pass opinions as facts. Why? Because direct confrontation requires courage, but indirect communication requires only insecurity. And gossip is often a symptom of emotional inability to deal with someone face to face. Now here is something deeper you must understand. People who hate you for no reason are not thinking about you as much as you think. They are thinking about themselves in relation to you. You are not the subject. You are the trigger. And that distinction changes everything. Because once you realize you are not the problem, you stop trying to solve yourself for other people's comfort. Now let's go deeper. There are three internal states that create this kind of behavior. The first is unhealed comparison. People compare themselves constantly, but not consciously. They see your discipline and feel their inconsistency. They see your focus and feel their distraction. They see your progress and feel their delay. And instead of using that as motivation, they turn it into resentment. The second is identity insecurity. When people don't know who they are, they become sensitive to people who do, because your clarity highlights their confusion. So instead of learning from you, they resist you. The third is emotional immaturity. Emotionally immature people cannot separate their feelings from reality. If they feel threatened, they assume there is a threat. If they feel inferior, they assume you made them feel inferior. So they blame you for emotions they failed to manage. Now here is where wisdom becomes important. Because once you can identify these behaviors, you also gain responsibility. The responsibility is not to fix them. The responsibility is to stop internalizing them. Not every opinion deserves reflection. Not every reaction deserves adjustment. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some people are not waiting for explanation. They are waiting for confirmation of what they already decided about you. And no amount of explaining will change a conclusion that was never based on evidence. So what do? You stay consistent. You stay focused. You stay disciplined. Because inconsistency feeds confusion. But consistency builds authority. And here is something powerful. Your growth does not require universal approval. Your direction does not require universal agreement. Your purpose does not require universal understanding. In fact, if everyone understands you too quickly, you are probably not growing fast enough, because real growth creates distance between perception and reality. Some people will only understand you in hindsight, and that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is not to be understood by everyone. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with your highest standard even when misunderstanding is present. Now let's address something emotional. It is easy to feel disturbed when people dislike you for no reason. It feels unfair. It feels irrational. It feels personal. But maturity teaches something different. Not everything that affects you deserves a reaction. Not every emotion deserves expression. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Sometimes silence is not weakness. It is wisdom under control. Because when you explain yourself to everyone, you lose time. And when you lose time, you lose direction. And when you lose direction, you lose progress. And progress is more important than public approval. So if there are people who misunderstand you, let them misunderstand. If there are people who dislike you without reason, let them, because clarity does not depend on their perception. It depends on your consistency. And over time, consistency always wins over confusion. Always. Because confusion is temporary. But character is visible over time. And here is the final truth you must internalize. You cannot control who dislikes you, but you can control whether their dislike shapes your identity. You cannot control who misunderstands you, but you can control whether you slow down to manage their misunderstanding. You cannot control who projects their insecurity onto you, but you can control whether you absorb it. And once you master that level of emotional independence, something changes in your life. You stop performing. You start building. You stop explaining. You start executing. And you stop shrinking. You expand into who you were meant to become.